When I came back from Connecticut, after I was working down there for a couple of years, I came back and someone asked me to play basketball on a Monday morning at the Boys Club in Pawtucket, and I was living in Providence at the time, and I said, sure, I'll meet you down there at 9 o'clock. Well, I ended up showing up about 9:45 because I got lost. Nothing was familiar. The streets had all changed. The White Tower was gone. The Hot Weenie joint was gone. There was a new ring road around the city. I got into that area where I thought I knew where the Boys Club was, and I kept going up this one-way street beyond it, and I couldn't get to the Boys Club. It used to be a two-way street, then it became a one-way street. So I got there like 45 minutes later than I was supposed to. And they said, oh, what happened? I got lost. What do you mean you got lost? You grew up in Pawtucket, you know? So that was my first exposure to urban renewal. And I thought, man, what a shame, you know, that I can no longer recognize the little area that I was so familiar with as a kid. The towns that didn't take advantage of the federal money in urban renewal are the ones who are now thriving because of their old buildings. I know land is finite, and we don't have a lot of space left, and people, I suppose, have to keep busy. But you can keep busy by doing adaptive reuse rather than tearing a building down there. Plus, economically, the thought that it's cheaper to tear a building down and build something in its place, I think is not true.
Buildings are artifacts that tell us a lot about the people that use them and the society that produced them, more so than they tell us a lot about ideas of proportion and the evolution of architectural elaboration and things like that.
A house tells a story, and part of that story is the growth from the beginning to the current day.
That's the journey that someone has to go through, understanding that this is not just a damaged or rotted piece of wood, but it's part of the story of the house. It's part of the legacy of the carpenter.
I could start with the contemporary philosophy of preservation, which is to preserve what's there, regardless of its age, regardless of its condition, to try to preserve it. People lose sight of that.
Because there are plenty of buildings that are being treated as historic buildings and being rehabilitated, but when you walk into them, you're not fooled. You don't say, oh, they didn't work on this building, or oh, look, they made a change, wait, yeah, I see what they did. Instead, you walk in and you see a new environment, basically, and the surfaces are all different, and many of the materials are new. When Steve works on one of these buildings that sort of is this sort of pure artifact, you don't get that. He's true and honest to say that if something had to be changed, we're not going to fool you that it didn't get changed, but in many cases, there is no change, that he found ways to work with the fabric and sort of seamlessly make the repairs and keep the building with that sort of patina of age, which often gets sacrificed in the idea of meeting codes and changing use and whatnot.
Our big thing is whether or not that person has an old house soul. And that is the first thing that indicates what we're going to do in that house. First of all, we're going to have to teach them how to have, if we can, how to have an old house soul. I mean, those are our words all the time. Does this owner have an old house soul? Old house soul is based on somebody who instinctively understands what they've got.
If you have what I call old house soul, your first your first exposure or first experience in working on an old house doesn't really change much. You know, it's exciting the first time you do it, and it continues to stay at the same level of excitement. If it doesn't, then, you know, I probably would have gotten out of the business a long time ago.